What if the emotions you see in a woman aren't random reactions at all, but signals shaped by a powerful biological rhythm you were never taught to understand? What if every mood shift, every moment of tenderness, every burst of confidence, and every silent withdrawal had meaning? And that meaning could completely change the way you connect, communicate, and respond. Most people go through life misreading these signals, assuming they're personal, assuming they're intentional, assuming they reflect something about them. But the truth is far deeper. A woman's emotional world moves with a rhythm that is real, predictable, and rooted in biology. And once you understand that rhythm, you don't just understand her, you understand the entire emotional landscape that shapes your relationship with her. Behind every reaction she has lies a pattern of hormones that rise, fall, and shift across the month. These hormones aren't just chemicals, they are emotional amplifiers. They decide how sensitive she feels, how confident she becomes, how connected she wants to be, and how much pressure her mind can carry without shutting down. When you don't understand this invisible cycle, you end up confused, frustrated, or hurt by things that were never about you in the first place. But when you do understand it, you gain clarity, you gain emotional intelligence, and you gain the ability to build trust on a level most people never reach. You start recognizing that her reactions don't define her. They reveal her. They show what phase of her internal rhythm she's standing in. They show whether her brain is in a mode of creation, connection, protection, or recovery. Suddenly, the emotional noise that once seemed unpredictable becomes clear and structured. You begin to understand why she can be warm and expressive in one moment, then quiet and introspective in another. You begin to see the human behind the hormones and the meaning behind the emotions. And this knowledge doesn't just make you wiser. It makes you better at listening, better at supporting, better at choosing your responses with strength instead of insecurity. When you learn how her cycle works, you stop reacting from confusion and start responding from awareness. That shift alone can transform your relationships. It can turn arguments into conversations. It can change distance into understanding. It can replace frustration with patience and replace assumptions with empathy. She doesn't need you to fix her emotions. She needs you to understand her rhythm. Because when someone understands her biology, she feels safer. When someone respects the natural flow of her emotional world, she feels valued. And when someone sees her not as unpredictable but as deeply human, she feels understood. Stay with this message, because what you will learn in the rest of this journey will give you something rare in today's world, the ability to read emotional patterns with clarity, the ability to support a woman in the moments she needs it most, the ability to build a connection that doesn't break under pressure. This isn't about controlling anything. It's about understanding reality, the reality that the female emotional cycle is not chaos. It is communication. It is a system. And once you understand it, you gain the strength to navigate it with confidence, calmness, and a deeper sense of connection than ever before. There is a stage in her inner rhythm where everything in her begins to rise. Her energy, her confidence, her clarity, her desire to connect. You can feel it in the way she speaks, the way she carries herself, the way her presence becomes brighter and sharper. This is not an accident. This is biology elevating her into a state where her mind is more focused, her emotions more balanced, and her spirit more expressive. When her hormones lift her upward, she steps into a version of herself that is bold, social, and ready to engage with the world. And if you understand what's happening beneath the surface, you stop treating her confidence as a mystery and start seeing it as a natural expression of her internal power. During this stage, positivity flows more easily for her, communication feels lighter, her emotional window widens, allowing her to receive appreciation, attention, and understanding without feeling overwhelmed. This is the time when your presence carries even more influence, not because she needs validation, but because her mind is tuned toward connection. She responds more strongly to encouragement. She gravitates toward people who make her feel seen. She becomes energized by those who respect her rising strength instead of feeling threatened by it. Your role here is not to match her intensity, but to stay grounded as her confidence grows. When someone stands steady while she expands, she feels supported rather than controlled. She feels appreciated rather than judged. She feels safe to express her intelligence, her ideas, her affection, and her ambition. This kind of understanding creates emotional chemistry that is deeper than attraction. It creates resonance, A sense that both energies are moving in the same direction, not competing, not pulling apart. This isn't just about her, it's also about you. When you understand this phase, you grow in emotional awareness. You learn to recognize when to engage, when to encourage, and when to offer space that empowers growth rather than smothers it. You stop trying to guess her mood and start understanding her rhythm. And that shift brings a level of calmness and confidence into your presence that she can feel instantly. When she is in this elevated state, your support has the power to strengthen trust. If you speak with respect, she remembers it. If you show consistency, she feels it. If you celebrate her rising energy instead of dismissing it, she opens up even more. She becomes more expressive, more affectionate, more inspired to build a deeper connection. That is the emotional reward of understanding her rhythm. You unlock the part of her that wants to move toward you, not away from you. People often complicate relationships by assuming emotions are random, unpredictable, or unstable. But when you look closely, you see that her confidence-driven phase is one of the most predictable and powerful parts of her cycle. It is an invitation to connect with her highest self, to show her that you are not intimidated by her strength, to prove that you can stand by her as she rises. And the more you understand this, the more naturally you will navigate the rest of her emotional landscape. Because when you recognize her elevated moments, you gain insight into what fuels her spirit. You learn what inspires her. You understand what makes her feel valued. And that understanding becomes the foundation for emotional depth, lasting connection, and the kind of stability that makes her trust you on a level she rarely allows anyone to reach. There comes a point in her internal rhythm where the rising confidence you once saw begins to soften. The energy that felt expansive shifts inward, and the world around her suddenly feels louder, heavier, sharper. This isn't because something went wrong. It's because her biology is guiding her into a period of heightened sensitivity. Her mind becomes more reactive to tone. Her heart becomes more responsive to subtle changes. The smallest gesture can feel meaningful, and the smallest mistake can feel deeply personal. This is not weakness. This is her nervous system entering a phase of deeper emotional processing. When you understand this, you stop misjudging her reactions. You stop labeling her as overreacting or too emotional. Instead, you see that her brain is prioritizing emotional detail in a way that most men never experience. She hears more in your words. She feels more in your silence. She remembers more in your actions. This heightened sensitivity is not meant to create conflict. It's meant to draw attention to what feels unstable, what feels unsupported, and what needs reassurance. Your presence becomes powerful here. The way you breathe, the way you respond, the way you listen without interrupting, these small behaviors can calm her entire system. Emotional safety becomes more important than solutions. Understanding becomes more valuable than logic. Patience becomes more meaningful than any argument you could ever make. When someone meets her sensitivity with steadiness instead of defensiveness, her body relaxes. Her guard lowers. Her trust grows. This is where emotional intelligence becomes the difference between connection and distance. If you take her sensitivity personally, you create tension. If you take it as a sign to be more intentional, you create closeness. Most relationships fall apart not because of major problems, but because people misread these subtle phases. They react with ego instead of awareness. They push when they should pause. They argue when they should listen. They get frustrated when they should be grounding. Understanding this stage gives you the power to avoid unnecessary friction. You begin to recognize the deeper message behind her emotional intensity. She doesn't want to fight. She wants to feel safe. She doesn't want you to solve everything. She wants you to stay present. She doesn't want you to explain why she shouldn't feel a certain way. She wants to know that her feelings don't scare you. When you respond with calmness, you show her that her emotions are not a burden. When you respond with understanding, you show her that you respect her internal world. When you respond with patience, you show her that her sensitivity can exist without creating chaos. And that changes everything. These moments may feel challenging, but they are also opportunities. Opportunities to show strength in the form of gentleness. Opportunities to show leadership through emotional stability. Opportunities to build a bond that can withstand stress, confusion, and vulnerability. A connection that only deepens when life feels heavy. The truth is, sensitivity is not something to manage, it's something to honor. Because sensitivity is where her intuition grows, where her emotional awareness sharpens, where her deeper needs reveal themselves. When you learn to support her through this phase, you don't just become someone she trusts. You become someone she feels safe returning to again and again, long after the moment has passed. There is a moment when her emotional system reaches its lowest point, and everything inside her becomes heavier to carry. The confidence that once rose, the sensitivity that sharpened her perception, now shifts into a phase of withdrawal. Not because she is losing interest, not because she is disappointed in you, but because her body is demanding stillness, silence, and protection. Her energy drops. Her patience thins. Her tolerance for pressure disappears. This is her biology telling her to conserve herself, to pull inward, to reset before she can rise again. When she retreats emotionally, it's easy to misunderstand her intentions. You might think she's angry. You might assume she's losing connection. You might feel tempted to chase, argue, question, or push for clarity she cannot give in that moment. But this phase is not about rejecting you. It's about surviving her own internal overload. Her mind becomes more critical because she's scanning for anything that feels unsafe, unstable, or uncertain. Her emotions become quieter but heavier, and any pressure from the outside world, even the smallest one, can feel like too much. Understanding this state gives you a tremendous advantage. Instead of reacting from insecurity, you respond from strength. Instead of taking her withdrawal personally, you respect it as a natural part of her rhythm. Instead of trying to pull her back when she steps away, you give her the emotional room her body is begging for. This doesn't mean disappearing. It means being present without demanding attention. It means offering support without crowding her space. It means holding your ground with calm, steady energy she can rely on, even when she cannot express how she feels. Your stability becomes her anchor. Your calmness becomes her safety net. Your consistency becomes the quiet reassurance she may never verbally ask for but deeply feels. She notices when you don't panic. She notices when you don't attack. She notices when you don't make her withdrawal about your ego. That emotional maturity tells her she is safe with you, even in her lowest emotional moments. And safety during her lowest point creates more trust than any grand gesture during her highest. This phase is where real connection is either strengthened or broken. If you respond with pressure, she closes further. If you respond with anger, she retreats deeper. But if you respond with patience, she slowly reopens. If you let her move at her own pace, she eventually returns with clarity, softness, and emotional readiness. Her withdrawal is temporary, but the impression you create during it is permanent. This is where your emotional discipline matters most. You are being asked to hold stillness while she reorganizes herself internally. You are being asked to trust the rhythm instead of interpreting it as rejection. You are being asked to show that your presence isn't conditional on her mood, her energy, or her ability to give back immediately. When she feels free to withdraw without fear, she learns that she can be human around you. She learns that she can have low days without losing connection. She learns that her emotional cycles don't scare you away. And that kind of trust is rare. It is powerful. It is unforgettable. Her withdrawal is not a wall. It is a reset, a temporary descent before her spirit rises again. And when you honor that rhythm, you become the person she knows she can return to once the emotional storm inside her has passed. When her energy begins to rise again after withdrawal, something powerful happens inside her. Her emotional world opens slowly, searching for safety before it searches for desire. Attraction for her is not triggered by pressure. It is triggered by trust. It is activated when her mind feels protected, when her heart feels understood, when her emotions feel honored instead of dismissed. This is why desire in a woman is deeply connected to how she experiences you during every phase of her cycle. Her body remembers who created safety. Her heart remembers who stayed consistent. Her mind remembers who didn't turn her emotional shifts into a problem. That memory becomes the foundation of the desire she feels toward you. When you support her confidence without trying to control it, she sees strength. When you navigate her sensitivity with patience, she sees maturity. When you respect her withdrawal without falling into insecurity, she sees stability. These three experiences blend together inside her and silently shape how she feels about you. Desire grows where she feels understood. Attraction deepens where she feels valued. Connection strengthens where she feels emotionally safe. This kind of desire is not superficial. It is not based on appearance, charm, or words. It is built on emotional presence. When she senses that you understand the rhythm of her inner world, she relaxes, her guard lowers, her affection becomes more genuine, more expressive, more willing. Her desire shifts from something she controls to something she feels. And that shift only happens in the presence of emotional reliability. Your consistency is the spark. Your empathy is the oxygen. Your grounded energy is the structure that allows her desire to take shape. She wants to feel that she can open without being judged, connect without being misunderstood, and express herself without being dismissed. When those conditions exist, attraction doesn't only rise, it stabilizes, it becomes deeper, more intentional, more connected to who you are rather than what you do. Understanding her cycle allows you to meet her where she is, not where you want her to be. It teaches you to align with her emotional rhythm instead of resisting it. And when you align with that rhythm, she feels something that is rare for many women, emotional safety with someone who actually pays attention. That safety unlocks the version of her who is loving, affectionate, expressive, attentive, and deeply connected to her own desire. This is the point where she stops holding back. This is where she allows herself to feel close. This is where her desire becomes more than a reaction. It becomes a choice to move toward you emotionally, mentally, and physically, a choice based on trust, not pressure, a choice based on how you showed up during the moments when her inner world was at its highest, its sharpest, and its lowest. A woman's desire is a reflection of the emotional environment you create. When that environment is steady, she feels free. When that environment is understanding, she feels drawn in. When that environment is safe, she feels desire not as an obligation, but as a natural response to your presence. Understanding her cycle is understanding her humanity. And when you honor that humanity, you unlock a bond that becomes stronger than mood swings, stronger than misunderstandings, and stronger than temporary emotional shifts. You create connection that lasts, a connection built on emotional truth, not confusion, a connection built on depth, not surface. A connection where desire becomes the natural expression of a woman who feels fully seen and fully safe in your presence. When a woman feels fully seen, something shifts inside her that goes beyond emotion, beyond desire, beyond the cycle itself. She begins to feel safe enough to let her true self emerge, the self that isn't filtered by mood, softened by fear, or guarded by past experiences. She opens in a way that only happens when she senses emotional maturity in the person standing beside her. That level of safety changes how she communicates, how she loves, and how she responds. It transforms the connection from something reactive into something deeply intentional. And it all begins with understanding the emotional rhythm that guides her every month. By recognizing her phases with empathy instead of frustration, you show her that your bond isn't dependent on conditions. You show her that you are not only present for her highs, but also for her lows. You show her that you are not intimidated by her vulnerability, her sensitivity, or her moments of silence. This level of steadiness makes her feel protected in a world that often misunderstands women. She feels that she doesn't need to shrink her emotions, hide her needs, or pretend to be fine. You create an emotional environment where her authenticity is safe. When she knows she can be real around you, she stops holding back the depth of her feminine nature. She allows herself to be expressive, intuitive, affectionate, and emotionally generous. Not because she has to be, but because her nervous system feels regulated in your presence. Her heart becomes more open. Her desire becomes more natural. Her communication becomes clearer. She begins to trust that you can handle all the versions of her, confident, sensitive, withdrawn, rising, and everything in between. This is the kind of connection that most people chase but rarely achieve. The kind that doesn't break under pressure because it's built on emotional awareness, not emotional guessing. The kind that grows stronger with every cycle instead of collapsing under misunderstandings. You are no longer reacting to her moods. You are reading the pattern beneath them. You are responding with purpose, not impulse. And she feels that difference in every interaction. When you understand her emotional rhythm, you also understand how to elevate her, not by trying to fix her, but by empowering her. Your presence becomes a source of calm. Your support becomes a source of strength. Your awareness becomes a source of emotional clarity. She starts to feel that you are not just someone who hears her, but someone who understands her at a depth she rarely experiences. And that creates a bond she protects, values, and invests in with full heart. This doesn't just make you better at relationships, it makes you stronger as a person. You become more patient, more grounded, more emotionally intelligent. You learn how to communicate with empathy. You learn how to lead with calmness instead of ego. You learn how to hold space for someone else's emotions without losing your own stability. These skills transform every part of your life in friendships, family, love, leadership, and self-growth. Understanding the female emotional cycle is not about gaining control. It's about gaining compassion. It's about learning how to show up as someone who brings peace instead of pressure. It's about building a connection that can handle the reality of human emotion. When you embrace this deeper awareness, you unlock the potential for a relationship that is resilient, respectful, intimate, and profoundly meaningful. You create a bond where both people feel safe to grow, safe to feel, safe to evolve, safe to love without fear,